Welcome back to new MCLT R&R, and today we're doing the second season of Dexter. The first season was based on the Jeff Lindsay novel, but as of this season we diverged from the original work to give place to new stuff. After the event of the first season, we are now following Dexter as he tried to blend in again, as dogs suspect him to hide something. Let's jump right in with an extended review of the first episode. Episode 1. We start the episode with an homage of the iconic scene of the first season, but Dokes follows him, trying to catch him doing something out of place, but only finds him going to the bowling with Masuka and Batista. He keeps thinking about his brother and the fact that Dokes doesn't let him be.
With Dokes tailing me, my life's been all Jekyll and no Hyde. No moonlit playdates, no late night social calls, not one. My brother would be so disappointed.
But his new boring life finally pays off as Dokes leaves his surveillance and Dexter is back in action. What's really interesting is the fact that Dexter is now rusty. His first victim of the season led him wondering if he still got it. Afterwards, we see him go home to find Deborah, as she lives with him now, as she cannot stand to be alone anymore. His life is slowly taking off with Rita, as he tried to be normal to her too. Deborah's back to homicide 5 weeks after the ice truck killer case was closed. After the mismanagement of the previous case, La Guardia is replaced by Esme Pascal as lieutenant, which she despises. We focus now on larger crime throughout the Miami area. Gang, drugs, murder. Dex got a lot of job now. We still see flashbacks of Harry, who teaches the code to Dexter. The Miami Metro keeps on trying to catch a gang leader as we see divers jump into the ocean. Then we have one of the most sensational scenes, the work of Dexter at the bottom of the ocean. Dexter's back at it again and trying another victim, but being rusty made him a bit sloppy and couldn't, again, complete his ritual. Then we have a brief moment of Paul asking Rita to find a shoe when Dexter dragged him out to inject him with heroin. Rita did, but all the abuse she got from him in the past stopped her from helping him. Then he dies in jail. After a long night of disappointment, Dexter goes home to Deborah, who's telling him to watch the news. That's when he sees his work brought up to light. As we think he might freak out, he grabs his heart and it is pounding really fast.
It's amazing.
He finally feels something. It really shows us how much Dexter grown in some ways and regressed in others. It sets up very well what will follow during this season and raise the stakes comparing to the first one. Dexter will now be forced to deal with his demon as Deborah is desperately trying to redeem herself for not catching the ice truck killer in the past season. This episode is a great bridge between the first and the second season and makes us want more right away. Is Dexter falling apart? Will Deborah find what his real hobby is? Is the code enough for Dexter to remain free? Will Doug see his true nature? This episode got us wondering. This is the first episode and I won't go step by step with each one, but I thought it was important here to understand where he is now. What changed or not in his surrounding, his motivation to fully understand this season. If you didn't watch this season and my long resume of the first episode grabbed your attention, I strongly suggest you to watch it, because here's the spoiler alert as I will go through the 11th episode of the season and review it as a whole, exposing the twists and turns and what worked for me and what didn't. Review. During this season, I think the case of the Bay Harbor Butcher is satisfying. From the find of the body bags in the sea, to the introduction of the FBI, to dogs always being on Dexter's back, to the final climax in the cabin. This case feels more imposing than the ice truck killer, again being tightly connected to Dexter. The stakes are higher for our psycho forensic friend. As the season goes on and his underwater graveyard is now exposed, he must find a way to dispose the bodies. A negative point of this season is the fact that Dokes is on Dexter's back for no apparent reason. It seemed a bit excessive to constantly follow him, as there's not even a trace of something illegal. We could say that dogs have a hunch, a sixth sense for a bad guy, and Dexter fits in. Still, it's a bit over the top, but Dexter doesn't help himself by constantly trying to ditch him. The most compelling sign that the stakes are getting higher is the introduction of the FBI, joining forces with the Miami Metro, showing they're not here to play. We are then introduced to Special Agent Lundy, in charge of the case.
First report from the field had these parts as coming from one body.
Actually, it's two.
Actually, it's two.
Uh-oh.
Deborah is deeply affected from the last season and more angry and irrational as they show her losing it.
Piece of shit! No! Please! I'll tell you what it is! The drugs is shit! Please don't shoot me, miss!
Morgan!
Another sign of Dexter growing as a character is when he must leave the memory of his dead brother go. We got this incredible scene at the end of episode 2 when he let go of his Barbie doll head keychain that he got in season 1. Rita exposed the shoe to Dexter, who inevitably must lie and says he's an addict. Alpha lie as he just said an addict, but Rita comes to the conclusion that it is heroin as he gave it to Paul. Then Dexter goes to the Narcotic Anonymous, where we are introduced to a new character, Lila. We got what I think one of the most interesting scenes of this season as Lila talks to Dexter about addiction. She doesn't know how deep Dexter's addiction is, but now is enlightened about his need and realized that he is addicted to his dark passenger. A sign of good character development and great writing as we feel ourselves in his shoes. I really appreciated the small interaction between Dexter and Lundy. We got this moment where Dexter is among his past victims and Lundy tells him something that Dexter takes to heart.
But there's never any justification for killing.
No. Well, one, of course. To save an innocent life.
To save an innocent life?
As Dexter understands Lundy's point, he figures out that he was saving innocent lives, but while doing it, he was only fulfilling his need to kill. What's interesting is the fact that Lila almost sees Dexter for what he really is. He built a relationship based on truth instead of lies with Rita, and for this, is slightly going toward Lila. This show is so well written. We know as much as Dexter for most of the time and makes us jump out of her seat when another twist makes him doubt himself again. The entire season is about whether Dexter can stop his addiction to killing while finding his mother's murderer. As everything is exposed to him, he tries to let it go and that's why he couldn't kill him. Which is interesting as Dexter always thought he couldn't stop himself from the dark passenger.
You'll be too late.
Don't you bloody do this. You are stronger than that.
I'm not!
Yes, you are. You've come this far. If you turn back now, you'll go right back to the way you were.
His relationship with Rita is slowly degrading while the one with Lila is growing stronger.
There was a time I would have done anything to protect Rita. I would have even lied. But today I told the truth, even though I knew she'd get hurt. Maybe I am leaving the old me behind.
It shows us that Dexter is trying to reject this dark passenger, but at the same time is becoming more and more dependent of Lila. I love how the intensity between Dexter and Dokes is constantly rising. The greatest thing of this season is that we got so much character development for Dokes that we begin to care about, and it creates a debate inside us. Do we want him to catch Dexter? It could be the only one. As the interaction goes on, Dexter is hiding less and less from him.
You finally decided to fight back. I've been waiting.
No matter what you try, no matter when, no matter how hard you work, I'll always be a step ahead of you for one simple reason.
And what's that?
I own you.
From now on, the climax is building up for 5 episodes. Lundy is another great foe for Dexter as he sees through his charade and directly comes to the conclusion that the Bay Harbor Butcher must have a law enforcement background, showing us that he is really efficient in his work. As Dexter decides to fight back for Rita, the true nature of Lila is exposed, and we finally see that she would do anything to keep Dexter under her control.
There was a fire at her place. I'm so sorry.
Promise me that you won't leave me, that you won't go anywhere.
I'm not going anywhere.
The character development of Lila is subtle, but it's going to extreme places quickly. The episode goes on and we are switching views as we now know more than Dexter.
Bay Harbor Butcher is one of our own.
We keep this to ourselves for now. Just the 3 of us.
I'm gonna go tell her to a bottle of scotch.
Another proof that the stakes are getting higher for Dexter. From one side, we get the Miami Metro who finds out that the Bay Harbor Butcher is one of their own. From the other, we got this jaw-dropping moment where Dokes is suspended for beating up Dexter and decide to break into his apartment and found the blood slices. Things are getting real hot for Dexter. Then we got a great turn of event when Lundy found the blood slices in Dokes' car and quickly become the #1 suspect and opened the door to Dexter to frame him.
I know this will come as a shock to you, Morgan, but our primary suspect is someone you know well. Sergeant James Dokes.
Sergeant Dokes.
Dex finally killed the man behind the murder of his biological mother, chopped him into pieces, and ready to drop him in the Gulf Stream. Then we got one of the most heart-stopping scenes of the season.
Ahead of schedule.
That's right, It's over.
How'd you find me?
GPS tap on your boat. Jesus Christ, Morgan.
Jesus Christ, you're the Bay Harbor Butcher.
One of the most interesting part is that Dexter wants to kill Dokes now, but it doesn't fit the code. This shows us how much he struggled with this and reveal another great character trait. What I like the most is to see how the relationship between Dexter and Dokes takes a 180 when he is in the cage, as Dexter no longer lies to him.
My code requires a higher standard of proof than your city's laws.
The twist keeps on coming as Dokes escaped the cage and found himself at the mercy of drug dealers who were searching for the cabin, more for their cocaine. Then they must work together to bring them out of the equation. And finally Dexter brings Dokes back in the cage. As Dexter now realizes he cannot kill Dokes, he's now thinking about giving himself up to Lundy. This shows how much he cares about the code while being destroyed by the fact that Harry lied to him more than once, and that he is responsible, in some ways, to his death. It shows us that nobody's perfect and the godlike image of him inside Dexter's mind was a false representation. Finally, we got the last great twist of the season as Lila is still obsessed with Dexter and cannot see him back with Rita. As she's stealing Dexter's GPS, she finds Dokes in the cabin.
Poor
thing all alone.
I'm okay. Just open the gate.
Not you. Dexter.
Then she does what Dex couldn't. Kill Dokes. This is interesting because Dexter was ready to give it all up. But now that Dokes is dead, he decides to not let his death be in vain. And pin everything on him. As Lila is trying to kill Rita's children now, to finally keep Dexter by her side, he plays her game until he finally sees that she fit the code.
More like my father than I ever imagined. I've created a monster of my own.
She killed Dokes, she tried to kill Aster and Cody, now Dexter must delete her. Not only from the code angle, but to remain like Harry always told him, under the radar, and one step ahead of everyone. While killing the second person who loved him for who he really is, he's thanking her for making him love himself again. I obviously jumped some stuff, but if you want the entire story, like the Dark Avenger, Paul's funeral, LaGuardia taking the lieutenant spot back from Esme, Dex-inspired copycat, Rita's mom, and Deborah's relationship with Lundy, I suggest you to watch it. It brings me around the bone. Final thoughts. The writing is at the level of the previous season while exploring new territory for Dexter. We now care about Dokes and feel sorry that his name is dragged through the mud, but our psycho friend doesn't let his death be in vain. The second season have a more meaningful impact on Dexter's behavior and personal life, with a great story that takes us to the edge of our seat more than once. I can easily say that this season is as good as the first one, and it's rare, considering that they diverge from the original content. The character of Deborah is also evolving, and we begin to see her as a good cop instead of a all-over-the-place character. We don't get so much going for Batista and Masuka, while LaGuardia fight her way back to the lieutenant spot. But it's okay because we got so much going on for Dexter that everything else would have been too much. The most interesting part is the fact that Dexter doesn't really learn from his mistakes and fall right back in his serial killer shoes as it shows us in New Blood Slice container. I give Dexter Season 2 the note of a solid 9 out of 10. Have you seen it? What are your thoughts? Does Dokes deserve what happened to him? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, it's always nice, and subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this one. Thank you for watching, it was Kevin MCLT, see you next time.